I would come visit every weekend, or every other weekend, towards the end more often, but every other weekend I'd come down, and right before I leave, he grabbed me by a hand and he goes, "You know what? I'll tell you what. I'll tell you later." And then he'd tell me, he knows my name right after that. It's like he remembered what he was going to say. So my dad, like you guys heard, he kind of put me through nursing school. He took care of Josie for so long, and you know, I really thought my mom was going to be the one that took her on trips and fed her and changed her diaper, but it was my dad. He was the one that did. He was my dad. He was my Josie's babysitter. And once I graduated, I got a job as a nurse, and then I took some time off from that for a little bit, came down and spent more time with my parents, and then I got to be his nurse. And I was there every day at the hospital, and I was keeping my eye out on those nurses, made sure they do everything right. And then when he came home, I was his personal nurse, and I felt like, wow, Dad, you put me through this, and you got to come home. He'd always tell my mom, we got to take good care of her. She's going to choose our nursing home. And I said, Dad, I'm never going to put you in a nursing home. But, you know, things got hard, and we didn't know what we were going to do for a while. And, you know, it's like God gave my mom the strength day by day, moment by moment. And he got to come home. And my dad, he loved to be home. My gosh. He would come visit me, and it was a 2-hour drive. And then he'd come, and he'd go, okay, we've been here 3 hours. Can we go? You know, and it's not like he didn't love to be there. He just loved to be home. And it was funny. When his memory was declining, it was kind of hard, but it's funny moments. So one time, my mom called me up and she goes, guess where we just went? And I said, where? She said, we went to Sioux Plantation. And I go, oh, that's good. We always went to Sioux Plantation after church. And then she said, well, it was so fun. I'm like, it was fun? She said, yeah. She's like, Dad loved it. He's like, what is this place? This is so cool. You can have all the salad you want. And look, there's bread, and there's pizza, and there's dessert too. And he was so excited to be at Sioux Plantation like he'd never been there before. It was the funniest thing. So he would call me every day. Towards the end, he'd call me, or you know, the last 6 months, he'd call me sometimes twice a day. And then I think, did he forget that he called me, or was he just wanting to talk to me again? So I just want to tell you a little bit about how he went, because that was so amazing and incredible. We were going camping, and we had left, and he had a seizure in the morning, and my mom, she didn't know what to do. She panicked. She called 911. They rushed him to the hospital, and I didn't have reception, so I didn't find out until the next day. And we drove down. We got a flat tire on the way. We had our big fifth wheel with us, and we parked it in the hospital parking lot, and we lived there for 2 weeks out of that fifth wheel. And just, it was kind of convenient. We just go in and out, eat, and go back. And he was in the ICU for a while, and they didn't know what he had, and we thought we knew what he had, and then the test came back normal recently, so we don't know what he had, but we know that he did have a stroke. And he was at the hospital for 2 weeks, and then he came home, and it was a hard decision. It was a tough day. And when he came home, he was really agitated at the hospital, just not happy. When he came home, it was like within hours, he was opening his eyes, he was happy, he was smiling. I mean, it was weird. It was like he wanted to be home, you know? And he was getting better, and we're like, oh my gosh, this is, what, God, you gotta do a miracle, or what's going on here? Because he was walking a little bit, and he would say words, and I remember telling him, Dad, I love you, Dad. He's like, And you know, a few times he would say something and you'd be able to catch what he said, and it was so precious. He was very pure at heart, you know. He's like, her? No, I don't want her. You know, and then she'd point to my mom maybe and say, come, or something, you know, and you'd see that he was still there. And my mom was always afraid that she was going to be alone, or she was going to have that stroke happen again, and she was going to be there by herself. And when he had his second stroke, I was there and I saw it happening, and I took him on the couch and I turned him on his left side, and Paul and Miriam were there, which was a blessing. And then we were able to have him situated, and we ended up taking him to the bedroom, and there he stayed for 2.5 days. And you know, we knew it was coming time, and we all got to say our goodbyes, and we all got to love him. And the last few hours, he was waiting for his sister to come, because we were there and we were worshiping. We were worshiping there for 3 days, just so you know. We didn't know when he was going to go, so we were there on and off. But the last few hours we knew that it was coming, and we started praising the Lord and singing songs, and I just held his hand, and I kept, you know, the nurse in me was looking at his pulse oximeter, and I was counting his respirations. I was looking at his veins, and I knew his heart was getting tired. And he was like, Dad, it's okay. You're not giving up, Dad. You're not giving up. You're just going home. And I held his hand, and I looked down, and my aunt looked at me and she said, look, look. And that's when Elaine came walking, and she came right by my side, and my mom said that I looked up at my aunt that just come in, and my mom was looking at him, and she said that's when he took his last breath, was right when she came in. And we were worshiping God, and there was so much like anguish and toil and just like, God, you know, and I was giving him his morphine and, you know, acting like his nurse, and there was so much. And then when he left, it was like, he's in heaven. And there was so much peace, and it was like heaven's doors opened as we sang, and his spirit went up, and a little bit of heaven trickled down, and we all felt the peace of God. It was so unreal, like I've never felt. And the nurse that was there with me, she's like, I love a beautiful death. She told me that in the beginning of the day, and I said, what is a beautiful death? And then later on, I said, now I know what is a beautiful death. That was amazing. And to know where he's at, and that, you know, he is speaking without an accent. That was his biggest thing. And to know that he is, he's enjoying every piece of life. Every question he wanted answers. He always studied the Bible. Every question he wanted answers to. And he's probably up there going, 3, 3, 3, not 3, 3. Say it again, Carol. No, Dad, 3. That was his thing. I just wanted to share that with you, because it was, you know, death is not the end. It's only the beginning. But we're here, and we miss him, and we love him, and we'll treasure him, and we'll hold on to him and the memory of him, and when we get there, we're going to hug him and love him. But death is just the beginning. Isn't that weird for us? It's so weird.